Let's move forward with option number 2. So we're going to create this separate file and make our update snippet server action inside there and export it, and then use it inside of our client component. To get started, back inside my editor, I left in that server action we put into our client component. That's currently causing an error. Let's make sure we delete that. Next up, inside of my src directory, I'm going to make a new folder called actions. And then inside there, I'll make a file called index.ts. So I'm going to make my server actions inside this file. In the diagram I just showed you, I said this thing was going to be named actions.ts. You can call it anything you want. It is totally up to you. So I'm just choosing to call my file index.ts. We can absolutely call this anything we want. Then inside of here, at the very top, we'll add in that use server directive. Again, that means that all the different functions we export from this file are going to be treated as server actions by Next.js. Then inside of here, we know that we're going to need to access our database to actually edit and kind of update a snippet. So I will import db from @/db right away. I will then define my server action. It will be an async function called edit snippet. And I'm going to assume that this function is going to be called with an ID and the code that we want to save to the snippet. So the ID is going to be the ID of the snippet we want to update, and then code is going to be the new code to save to it. Then inside of here, to update our record with Prisma, we'll do an await db.snippet.update1. I'm going to call it edit snippet. And then inside of here, again, for right now, I like to do these little tests just to incrementally make sure everything is working. So let's just add in for right now a console log that says edit snippet called. I want to wire this up to our client component and make sure we can actually run it and see a console log appear. So to make use of this, we will go back over to our snippet edit form. At the very top, we'll add in an import for edit snippet from @/actions. Because we named that file index.ts, or specifically index, we do not need to specify the index. It is just implied. So we can just import @/actions, and we'll get the contents of that index file. That's why I called it specifically index, just to make the import a little bit easier. Another pattern that I very often use personally when importing actions like this, I'll very often, rather than just importing the single function I care about out of that file, I sometimes will import all the functions out of there by using star as actions. And now if I want to call that edit snippet one, it will be actions.edit snippet like so. So this pattern is very useful whenever I am importing many different actions out of a file to be used inside of a component. Right now, we're just importing one to use, but I can use this pattern anyways, just so you can kind of see it in action. Okay, so now that we've got our server action, it's time to actually call it at some point in time. And oh boy, let me tell you, that is where things get really interesting. So quick reminder here, back over inside of our new component, we made a server action, and then to call it, we passed it off directly to our form, specifically as the action prop. When we start to make use of a server action inside of a client component, though, we can call that server action many different ways. So let's take a pause right here. I'm going to come back in just a moment, and I'm going to show you a couple different ways in which we can run this server action now, specifically because we are now running it from inside of a client component.